Anastasia is 16 years old and is from Volgodinsk. Despite her cute appearance, the girl has a combative character. She never liked studying at school, so she only finished 9 grades. Despite the fact that Anastasia has only bad grades on her certificate, she was able to enroll in a technical school as a sales assistant cashier. Anastasia's mother's name is Tatyana, and her stepfather's name is Sergey. Tatyana pays more attention to her 2 younger sons. She loves to cook delicious food for them. Her second marriage turned out to be happy, unlike the first one. Anastasia's father has no contact with his daughter. He now lives in another city and has a new family. Anastasia's grandmother helps her daughter and granddaughter with everything. She also likes to cook delicious food. Soon Tatyana suggested that her daughter meet the 20-year-old guy named Daniel, who is a fisherman. For him it is the only source of income. But Tatyana still decided that this was a good option for her daughter. She wants Anastasia to finally stop associating with bad company. Tatyana took things into her own hands and wrote to Daniel on behalf of her daughter on social networking sites. He replied willingly, because he immediately liked Anastasia. When Daniel offered to meet, Tatyana had to tell her daughter the truth. She had no choice but to go on a date with Daniel. Surprisingly, Anastasia also fell in love with the guy. From that day on they started walking together every day. It turned out that Daniel was also raised by a stepfather. He never knew his own father. They live modestly, since their work is seasonal. When there's fish, there's income. Tatyana's plan seemed to work. But what she definitely could not predict was that her daughter would become pregnant. It happened 9 months after they met. When Anastasia began to vomit from tobacco smoke, she suspected something was wrong. She bought a pregnancy test, which turned out to be positive. The mother was the first to find out about the pregnancy. She was not happy about it because she hoped that the daughter would get an education. Besides, Anastasia was already pregnant 3 months ago. But they decided not to keep the pregnancy. The mother, like the grandmother, was very ashamed in front of neighbors. Daniel also supported the decision not to keep the pregnancy because he was afraid of the responsibility. However, this time Anastasia will not allow anyone to take her baby away. Anastasia locked herself in the bathroom and texted Daniel. He decided to support her. When her daughter came out of the bathroom, Tatyana asked what money they were going to live on. Anastasia doesn't care about that yet. The mother and the daughter went to the doctor. An ultrasound scan confirmed a pregnancy. The due date is 5 weeks. Anastasia said she would give birth because Daniel is ready to take responsibility. At the entrance to the clinic, the beloved and her mother were met by Daniel. He said that they would keep the baby, but Tatyana does not support this decision, believing that the young people are not capable of taking care of even themselves. At home, Anastasia broke the news to her best friend Victoria. She too is of the opinion that at 16 it is too early to give birth. 3 days passed. Anastasia was about to go to Daniel in the village, and Tatyana asked her mother for advice. She said they would have to put up with it and help Anastasia. Meanwhile, the girl suddenly felt sick and dizzy. Daniel was not confused and called the local paramedic. Anastasia was brought to Daniel's house. When his mother Anna found out about the pregnancy, she was shocked. She had not known Anastasia personally until that moment. The girl felt a little better, and Daniel took her home. The next day Tatyana and her mother went to the village and came to Anna to discuss the situation. When the women entered the house, they were horrified. The place was completely unsanitary and a mess. Tatyana immediately realized that Anna would not be able to help the young family financially. The women decided that Anastasia and Daniel should get married so that the child would be born in wedlock. Tatyana rented her daughter and her lover a separate apartment at her own expense. But she set a condition. Anastasia must continue her studies. Daniel is not happy about moving to the city because he is used to living in the countryside. Daniel had to go to work as a loader. Anastasia regularly went to her classes at the technical school, but then she got severe toxicosis. After work, Daniel did not rush home, but went to his friend Maxim in the village. In the evenings at home, Daniel was constantly drinking. Of course, Anastasia didn't like it very much, and they fought about it all the time. One day Tatyana came to visit them. She is unhappy that her daughter is not taking classes at the technical school. Tatyana also wants Daniel to look for a better paying job. She is not satisfied with the fact that the guy cannot pay his own rent. In addition, the mother insists on the wedding. It was the 17th week of pregnancy. The young people agreed to get married after all. The wedding date was set for next month. Daniel thinks that celebrating the wedding is a stupid idea because they have no money. In addition, he quit his job. Daniel met up with a friend again. The guy is upset that neither his mother nor stepfather are coming to their wedding. For the first time, Daniel told Anastasia about his difficult childhood. His stepfather constantly abused him, and his mother never defended her son. Daniel resents her, but despite this he still wants her love. This is why it is so important to him that the mother be present at the wedding. Only now did Tatiana tell her husband about Anastasia's pregnancy. Of course he was shocked. Soon the mother and the daughter went to a wedding salon to choose a dress. There were many beautiful outfits, but they are all very expensive. Afterwards, Anastasia invited her friend Victoria to visit her to think together about her wedding makeup and hair. However, in the apartment they found drunk guys, including Daniel. The house was a terrible mess. Anastasia caused a scandal. She and Victoria tried to kick the drunk guys out, but instead Daniel kicked the girls out the door. Anastasia immediately called her mother to pick them up. Victoria believes that a man like Daniel should be left. Victoria also promised Anastasia that tomorrow she would help her pack to move back home. In the evening, Daniel came to her to apologize. She was very offended at him, but she forgave him anyway. Tatiana does not believe that this will not happen again, but she did not stop her daughter. She and Daniel went back to their apartment. When Victoria came and found out that her friend and Daniel had reconciled, she was shocked. She doesn't understand why Anastasia allows herself to be humiliated. Victoria is not going to go to their wedding. Finally, the wedding day has arrived. In spite of everything, Anastasia is happy. Daniel's mother arrived after all. The party went well. The newlyweds were given 100,000 rubles, but the money had to be returned to the mother and grandmother since the party was organized at their expense. Life is back to the way it was before. Anastasia has to take classes at the technical school in order not to make her mother angry. Tatiana still gives money to the young family because Daniel still hasn't found a permanent job. But today Anastasia does not want to think about bad things because she has a scheduled ultrasound. The doctor said that she is having a boy. Anastasia broke the news to Daniel. He was very happy that he was going to have a son. Daniel wants to get drunk with his friends on this occasion. To avoid conflict, he invited his wife to come with him. Anastasia asked her mother to buy groceries because Daniel ate everything she bought yesterday. Tatiana is very indignant about this. In the evening, as arranged, Anastasia arrived at the village. Instead of drinking a little, Daniel got drunk. Anastasia started a scandal over it. Daniel started to act aggressively, but was stopped by the friend who was worried about Anastasia. She thought it couldn't get any worse, but then she saw Daniel in the car with another girl. Anastasia couldn't believe it. She took off her wedding ring and threw it at Daniel, and then she called a cab and drove to her mother's house. In the morning, Anastasia came to their apartment to pack, not expecting that Daniel would return so early from the village. He tried not to let her leave, but she could not forgive his betrayal. Anastasia pushed him away and left without her things. She doesn't know what she should do now. Anastasia called Victoria to make up with her. Victoria forgave the friend. Anastasia told her what had happened. Victoria hugged and comforted her. She felt very sorry for the girl. A month has passed. Anastasia lives with her mother and ignores all of Daniel's calls and messages. Then the guy came to their house to ask for forgiveness. Anastasia was still very hurt, but she missed her lover and decided to give him one last chance. Her mother does not approve of this decision. She fears that her daughter will repeat her fate. Tatiana feels guilty, since she was the one who introduced Anastasia to the guy. To redeem himself, Daniel helped Anastasia with everything. He also got a job, again as a loader. Tatiana reproached her daughter for constantly eating. During pregnancy, Anastasia gained 20 kilos, but the girl cannot refuse to eat. The day of the last ultrasound scan came. Since the doctor found some problems, he recommended Anastasia to be hospitalized before the birth begins. Now Anastasia needs to prepare everything she needs for the birth of her baby. Victoria agreed to keep her company, even though she thinks that the friend has forgiven Daniel in vain. They bought baby things. The next day, Tatiana invited her daughter to her house and gave her a bag with everything she needed for the baby. On the eve of giving birth, the grandmother took her granddaughter to the maternity hospital in Rostov-on-Don. Anastasia was very bored in the hospital, and periodically the grandmother visited her. It's 200 kilometers away from her hometown, so the rest of her relatives can't come. The day of birth has come. Anastasia was in a lot of pain, but she made it through. The boy was born, whose name was Sergei. 2 days later, Anastasia and her son were discharged. They were met by Tatiana, Daniel and the girl's stepfather. Everyone was happy. Grandma prepared everything for the appearance of her great-grandson. A month has passed. The young parents' whole life revolves around their son. Daniel constantly works, so Anastasia spends a lot of time visiting her mother and grandmother. Tatiana was surprised to learn that Daniel's mother has never seen her grandson. She does not participate in their life in any way. Anastasia did not want to communicate with Anna, but for Daniel's sake, she offered to visit the village with the son. Daniel was very sad. Anastasia decided to continue her studies because her mother and grandmother could look after her grandson at any time. Since Daniel's salary is small, Tatiana had to give the money. Anastasia asked her husband to find another job, but he was not enthusiastic about the idea. Because of this, Anastasia and Daniel are constantly in conflict. In order to save the marriage, they went to a family psychologist. It seems that husband and wife came to a compromise. Daniel promised to find another job in the near future, and Anastasia began to devote more time to herself.